Moving into a new neighborhood should be exciting. A fresh start, new surroundings, maybe even some friendly neighbors. But in my case, I was greeted with something entirely different. Helen Dawson, the self-appointed ruler of the block. She had a clipboard, an attitude, and a mission to make my life miserable from the moment I pulled into my driveway. It started small. The first morning in my new home, I woke up to find a violation notice taped to my door. Lawn not up to community standards. My lawn was brand new, having been installed just a week prior, and looked flawless. But that didn't stop Helen from citing me for grass that was supposedly half an inch too long. Half an inch. Then came the garbage bin complaints. Bins must be retrieved within 1 hour of collection time. I worked late and wasn't home when the trash was picked up. The next day, another violation. Then my mailbox was too modern for the neighborhood aesthetic. Another fine. It was never-ending. I tried reasoning with her, but Helen didn't do reason. She does control. And as far as she was concerned, I was a problem that needed to be dealt with. Things escalated fast. One evening, I was washing my car in my driveway when Helen strutted over, arms crossed, her face twisted in her signature disapproving scowl. "This is unacceptable," she snapped, pointing at the soapy water trickling toward the street. "You're violating HOA Regulation 5.7b, water waste and community aesthetic." I let out a short laugh. Community aesthetic? It's water. It'll dry. It disrupts the uniform look of the neighborhood, she huffed, looking genuinely offended by the concept of evaporation. "This is your final warning." I rolled my eyes and went back to washing my car. But Helen wasn't done. The next morning, I woke up to a pounding on my door. When I opened it, 2 uniformed officers stood on my porch. "Sir, we received a report about unauthorized construction on your property," one officer said. I frowned. "Construction?" Helen emerged from behind them, her arms crossed, her smug expression radiating victory. "He's been making illegal modifications to his driveway," she said sweetly. "That's against community policy and city code." I blinked. "You mean me washing my car?" The officer sighed. "Sir, can we take a look?" I waved them over to my completely normal driveway. No modifications. No construction. Just a clean car and a very annoyed homeowner. The officers exchanged a look before turning back to Helen. "Ma'am, there's no violation here. This is a civil matter, not a police issue." Helen's smile faltered. "Well, he's still a disturbance to the neighborhood. He needs to be dealt with." The officer gave her a long, tired stare. "Ma'am, you can't call 911 for neighborhood disputes. If there's no crime being committed, we can't do anything." Helen's face turned red. She wasn't used to being told no, and she definitely wasn't going to stop there. Over the next few days, Helen tried everything to get me in trouble. She called code enforcement, claiming I had unpermitted structures in my yard. She was referring to a patio umbrella. Then she complained about my porch lights being too bright at night. When none of that worked, she went for the nuclear option. She called the cops again. This time, she tried to have me arrested. And that's where she really screwed up. Because what she didn't know, my brother is the county sheriff. I was watching TV when I heard a loud knock at the door. I opened it, and this time, there was only one officer. My brother. He stood there, arms crossed, shaking his head. "Dude, what the hell is going on? I've got Helen over there screaming about pressing charges." I let out a groan. "What now?" He sighed. "She claims you threatened her with aggressive eye contact." I burst out laughing. "You're joking." I wish I was. My brother rubbed his temples. "She's demanding we take you in for intimidation and verbal assault." I crossed my arms, and he smirked. "And I told her to sit down before she gets charged with filing a false report." Helen, standing on her porch, must have realized who she was dealing with. Her face turned pale as she finally connected the dots. But it was too late for her now. She thought she could use the police to get rid of me. She didn't realize that she had just dug her own grave. Helen had spent years terrorizing this neighborhood, throwing around her so-called authority like a queen ruling over her subjects. But this time, she had messed with the wrong person. And now she had no idea just how badly she had screwed up. After my brother shut down her ridiculous complaint, I figured she'd crawl back into her lair for a while. I was wrong. Helen doubled down. If she couldn't get me arrested, she'd do the next best thing. Turn the entire neighborhood against me. The very next morning, I woke up to an absolute storm in the neighborhood Facebook group. Helen had posted a long, dramatic rant about how I was a dangerous influence on the community and how I had threatened and harassed an HOA official. She demanded an emergency meeting to discuss appropriate disciplinary action against disruptive homeowners. I nearly spit out my coffee. This woman was absolutely unhinged. The emergency HOA meeting was held that evening. I decided to attend, mostly for the entertainment value. When I arrived, Helen was already at the front of the room, arms crossed, pacing back and forth like she was delivering a court case. "This neighborhood has rules," she barked. "And some people, newcomers who don't respect our way of life, think they can do whatever they want. We cannot allow such lawlessness." I raised a hand. "Are you referring to me?" Helen's eyes narrowed into slits. "We don't say names here," she snapped, as if that somehow made it less obvious. One of the board members sighed. "Helen, is this about the police call? Because I heard from Officer Daniels that there was no crime." Helen's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's not the point. The point is, he's dangerous. He's disrespectful. And worst of all," she slammed a paper down on the table, "he's breaking rules left and right." I stepped forward, picking up the paper. "Helen, this is a blank violation form." Her face twitched. "That's not the point either." The board president cleared his throat. "Actually, we are talking about you, Helen. We've received multiple complaints about your behavior." Helen froze. "What? You can't do that. I am the HOA." "No, Helen," the president said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "You were." That night, Helen was officially stripped of her position in the HOA. And 2 weeks later, she was gone.